Beautiful woman falls into river. Black man saves her, unaware. She's a billionaire CEO seeking love. The autumn sun cast golden light across the Chicago Riverwalk, and Veronica Sterling stood at the railing, her blonde hair tucked under a baseball cap, wearing jeans and a simple sweater instead of the Armani suits she lived in. For once, she wasn't CEO Veronica Sterling of Sterling Tech Industries, the youngest self-made billionaire on the Forbes list at 32. She was just Ronnie, a name she hadn't used since college, trying to remember what normal felt like. She leaned over the railing to take a photo of the water reflecting the skyline when someone jostled her from behind. A tourist with an oversized backpack, not paying attention. Veronica stumbled, her phone flying from her hand, and suddenly she was pitching forward over the railing. The river was shockingly cold when she hit. October in Chicago meant the water was maybe 50 degrees, and Veronica gasped, swallowing water, her clothes instantly heavy. She'd never been a strong swimmer, and panic seized her chest as she went under. She surfaced, coughing, reaching for anything, but the current was stronger than she'd expected. Her lungs burned, the world tilted, then strong hands grabbed her. "I've got you, stop fighting!" A deep voice, commanding but not harsh. Veronica felt herself being pulled through the water with powerful strokes. She tried to help, kicking weakly, but her rescuer did most of the work. 30 seconds that felt like 30 minutes later, they reached a ladder built into the riverwalk. "Can you climb?" She nodded, shaking violently, and started up with his hands steadying her from below. When she reached the top, she collapsed on the concrete, coughing up river water. Her rescuer climbed up behind her, water streaming from his clothes. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark skin, close-cropped hair, and the kind of athletic build that came from real work, not gym memberships. He looked to be in his mid-30s, wearing jeans and a now-soaked flannel shirt. "You okay?" He knelt beside her, checking her over with eyes that were more concerned than judgmental. Yeah, thank you." Veronica's teeth chattered. "You didn't have to." "Yeah, I did." He pulled off his flannel, leaving just a t-shirt, and wrapped it around her shoulders. "You're hypothermic. We need to get you warm. My truck's right there." "I don't know you." Xavier Monroe. "And I just pulled you out of a river, so I think we're past the stranger danger stage." His smile was gentle, reassuring. "I'm not gonna hurt you, but you need dry clothes and heat before shock sets in." A small crowd had gathered. Someone called 911, but Xavier was already guiding Veronica, who was shaking so hard she could barely stand, to a beat-up Ford F-150 parked nearby. He cranked the heat, blasting warm air, and grabbed a gym bag from the back. "I have a clean sweatshirt. It'll be huge. On you, but it's dry. There's a blanket back there, too." Veronica's brain was foggy from cold, but she managed to change in the cab while Xavier stood outside, keeping watch and waving off the gathering crowd. The sweatshirt hung to her knees. The blanket smelled like motor oil and something woodsy, cedar maybe. When Xavier climbed back in, he rubbed his arms, clearly cold himself, but focused on her. "What's your name?" Veronica hesitated. If she said Veronica Sterling, he'd know. Everyone knew. Her face had been on the cover of Fortune magazine last month. "Ronnie," she said finally. "Ronnie Cross. Nice to meet you, Ronnie. Wish it was under better circumstances." His smile was warm, genuine, and something in Veronica's chest, something that had nothing to do with the cold, stirred to life. Paramedics arrived, checked her vitals, and declared her lucky but fine. They told her to go home, warm up properly, and watch for signs of secondary drowning. Xavier drove her to the address she gave. A modest apartment in Lincoln Park that she'd rented under an alias 3 weeks ago when she'd started this experiment in normal life. "Thank you," she said at the door. "Really? You saved my life. Just glad I was there." He paused. "You gonna be okay alone? You probably shouldn't be by yourself for a few hours." She should say yes, should send him away. But something about Xavier Monroe, his kindness, his lack of recognition, the way he'd risked his own safety without hesitation, made her want him to stay. "Would you want to come up for coffee? I owe you at least that." His smile could have melted the river ice. "Yeah, I'd like that." And just like that, Veronica Sterling's carefully planned escape from her billionaire life got infinitely more complicated. Hello, my Stop Racism family. Thank you for tuning in today. Before we dive deeper into this beautiful love story, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your country and state in the comments below. Also, I'd love to know your thoughts. What did you think of the story so far? Do you believe love can truly conquer prejudice? Let us know in the comments. We love reading them. And trust me, your words motivate us to keep making these videos. Let's make this video reach at least 50 comments. Your support means the world to us, and it drives us to create even more meaningful content for you. So don't forget to comment, share, and keep spreading love. Xavier Monroe sat in Ronnie's small apartment, nursing terrible instant coffee, and tried to figure out the woman across from him. She was beautiful. That was obvious, even with wet hair and no makeup. Blonde, blue eyes, delicate features. But there was something else. The way she carried herself, even shivering in his oversized sweatshirt, suggested someone used to authority, control. "So, what do you do, Ronnie?" he asked. She hesitated. "I'm between jobs right now, taking time to figure things out." "You?" "I'm a contractor. Monroe Construction, it's just me and my crew. We do renovations, restorations, some custom builds." He smiled. "Not glamorous, but honest work." "Honest work is the best kind," she said, and meant it. In her world of board meetings and hostile takeovers, honest was rare. "What about family? Someone I should call to let them know you're okay?" Veronica thought about her assistant, her board members, her lawyers, the people who managed her life, but didn't really know her. No one to call. "My parents died when I was young, raised by my grandmother who passed 2 years ago. It's just me." That part was true. Her billions hadn't come from inheritance. She'd built Sterling Tech from scratch after dropping out of MIT, revolutionizing cloud infrastructure. But the loneliness was real. "I'm sorry," Xavier said, and she heard genuine empathy. "I lost my dad 5 years ago. Heart attack. My mom still lives in Bronzeville. That's where I grew up. I have a sister, Keisha, who never lets me forget she's the smart one in the family." His warmth was magnetic. Veronica found herself smiling for the first time in weeks. "What made you jump in the river after me?" she asked. "Most people would have just called 911. Xavier shrugged. "My dad was a firefighter. He always said you don't wait for someone else to do the right thing. You do it. Besides, I was on the swim team in high school. Seemed like a good time to use those skills." They talked for 2 hours about Chicago neighborhoods, the best pizza places, the weather. Normal things. Things Veronica never discussed in her real life. Xavier was easy to talk to, funny without trying too hard, and seemed genuinely interested in what she said. He didn't posture or perform. He just was. When he finally stood to leave, Veronica felt an unexpected pang of disappointment. "I should let you rest. But hey," he pulled out his phone. "Can I get your number? Just to check in tomorrow, make sure you're okay." Veronica gave him the burner phone number she'd set up for her alias identity. "I'd like that." At the door, Xavier paused. "This might sound crazy, but would you want to have dinner sometime? Like, on purpose, not just because I fished you out of a river?" Her heart jumped. This was what she'd wanted. Someone who saw her as just a woman, not a bank account with legs. But it was also dangerous. The longer this continued, the harder it would be to maintain the lie. "Yes," she heard herself say. "I'd like that very much." After he left, Veronica stood in her small apartment, so different from her penthouse downtown, and wondered what she'd just started. For the first time in years, she was excited about something that had nothing to do with quarterly earnings or market dominance. She was excited about a man who had no idea who she really was. Xavier picked her up 3 days later in his truck, which Veronica found oddly charming after years of town cars and chauffeurs. "I hope you like barbecue," he said as they drove. "There's this place in Pilsen, best ribs in Chicago. Nothing fancy, but the food's incredible." "Sounds perfect." The restaurant was a hole in the wall with plastic tablecloths and a line out the door. In her real life, Veronica ate at Michelin-starred restaurants with sommeliers and $18 appetizers. This was better. "So, tell me more about being between jobs," Xavier said after they ordered. "What did you do before?" Veronica had prepared this. Corporate stuff, marketing, strategy. It paid well, but it was soul-crushing. Long hours, impossible bosses, no work-life balance. I finally quit and decided to figure out what I actually want. All technically true, just incomplete. Brave move. What do you think you want? Something real, something meaningful. A life that's mine, not prescribed by other people's expectations. She met his eyes. What about you? Did you always want to be a contractor? Xavier laughed. God, no. I wanted to be an architect. Had a scholarship to Illinois Institute of Technology and everything. But my dad got sick my sophomore year, and somebody had to keep the family afloat. I dropped out, started working construction to pay bills, and just never went back. Do you regret it? Sometimes. But I like what I do. Building things, fixing things, seeing a project come together. And I get to be my own boss, set my own hours. There's freedom in that. Veronica understood that more than he knew. Despite her billions, she often felt trapped by her company, her board, her reputation. The food arrived. Ribs, coleslaw, cornbread, sweet tea. And they ate with their hands, laughing when sauce got everywhere. So, what made you move to Lincoln Park? Xavier asked. It's not exactly budget-friendly for someone between jobs. She'd anticipated this. Sublet from a friend. Got a deal. She changed subjects. Tell me about your sister. You said she's the smart one. Xavier's face lit up. Keisha's a pediatric surgeon at Northwestern. Graduated top of her class, published research, the whole deal. She gives me endless grief about dropping out. But she also calls me every time something in her condo breaks. Sounds like you're close. We are. After Dad died, it was just us taking care of Mom. Keisha with her doctor money, me with my contractor hands. It works. There was something beautiful about his lack of pretension. Xavier was proud of his sister's accomplishments without resentment, comfortable with his own path without ego. After dinner, they walked along the Riverwalk. Ironic given their first meeting. I should probably stay away from the edge this time, Veronica joked. I've got you. Xavier's hand found hers, warm and calloused. I won't let you fall again. The double meaning wasn't lost on either of them. They stopped at a viewpoint, Chicago's lights reflecting on the water, and Xavier turned to her. I'm really glad I met you, Ronnie, even if the circumstances were terrifying. Me too. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. The kiss was gentle, questioning, and when they pulled apart, Veronica felt something she hadn't felt in her years of calculated corporate warfare. Genuine, terrifying vulnerability. Can I see you again? Xavier asked. Yes, please. Walking back to his truck, Veronica's phone, her real phone, hidden in her purse, buzzed with urgent messages from her assistant about tomorrow's board meeting. She silenced it. Tomorrow, she'd be Veronica Sterling, billionaire CEO. Tonight, she was just Ronnie, holding hands with a man who saw her, not her net worth. For now, that was enough. Over the next 3 weeks, Veronica lived a double life. By day, she was CEO Sterling, ruthless negotiator, tech visionary, Forbes cover star. She ran board meetings, closed deals, and made decisions affecting thousands of employees. By evening, she'd change in her car, drive to her Lincoln Park apartment, and become Ronnie Cross, normal woman dating a contractor named Xavier. They saw each other 4 or 5 times a week. Coffee dates, walks through Millennium Park, dinner at hole-in-the-wall restaurants Xavier knew. He took her to a White Sox game. She pretended she'd never been to Cellular Field before, even though Sterling Tech had a corporate box there. With Xavier, she laughed, really laughed. He told terrible jokes, shared stories about construction mishaps, and listened when she talked, really listened. Not the performative listening she endured in business meetings. You're different, Xavier said one evening as they sat on Navy Pier, sharing cotton candy. Most women I've dated in Chicago are either climbing some social ladder or playing games. You're just you. It's refreshing. Veronica's chest tightened with guilt. If only he knew. But maintaining the lie was getting harder. Xavier wanted to introduce her to his mother and sister. Veronica kept making excuses, terrified someone would recognize her. She'd canceled 2 dates because emergency board meetings ran long. She'd lied about where she was going when her assistant called about a crisis in Shanghai. Her assistant, Bethany Morrison, a sharp woman in her 40s who'd worked for Veronica for 8 years, noticed something was off. "You're different lately," Bethany said during a video call. Veronica never went to the Sterling Tech building anymore, conducting all business remotely. "Distracted. And why haven't you been to the office in a month?" "I'm working remotely. It's more efficient." "Veronica, the board is asking questions. Shareholders want FaceTime. You can't hide forever." "I'm not hiding. I'm living." After the call, Veronica stared at her reflection in the apartment's cheap mirror. Who was she becoming? The CEO who'd built an empire through singular focus? Or the woman who wanted picnics in the park and hand-holding with a man who fixed things with his hands? Xavier, meanwhile, was falling hard. He told his best friend, Darius Cole, a police officer who'd known Xavier since high school, about Ronnie over beers. "Man, she's amazing. Smart, funny, down to earth. None of that pretentious Chicago dating scene nonsense." Darius raised an eyebrow. "What's she do again?" "Between jobs. Corporate burnout. Taking time to figure herself out. Red flag ex. Woman with no job, vague background, won't meet your family? You sure she's not married or something?" "She's not like that. I can tell." Famous last words, brother. But Xavier dismissed the concerns. He'd seen Ronnie's vulnerability after the river incident. The way she lit up when he picked her up for dates. The genuine interest she showed in his life. Whatever secrets she had, and everyone had secrets, he believed in the connection between them. The crisis came when Xavier showed up at her apartment unannounced. Veronica was in full CEO mode. Designer suit, hair and makeup perfect. On a video call with Tokyo investors, her real laptop open with Sterling Tech logos everywhere. She heard his knock and froze, mid-sentence with a Japanese executive. "I need to call you back," she said quickly, closing the laptop. She changed frantically, throwing on jeans and a sweater, hiding all evidence of her real life. When she opened the door, Xavier stood there with flowers and a concerned expression. "Hey, I was nearby and thought I'd surprise you. You okay? You look stressed." "I'm fine. Just wasn't expecting you." But Xavier's eyes had already swept the apartment, landing on her designer purse, her mess worth $15,000, sitting on the counter. "Nice bag," he said carefully. "Must have been from your corporate days." "Yeah, old bonus." The lie tasted like ash. "How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. The relationship that had felt effortless began showing strain. Veronica kept canceling dates with vague excuses. Xavier kept suggesting she meet his family, and she kept deflecting. The foundation built on half-truths was cracking. "Are you ashamed of me?" Xavier asked one evening after she canceled dinner with his mother for the 3rd time. "What? No. How could you even think that?" "Because you won't meet my family. You won't tell me about your life before now. You disappear for hours without explanation. Either you're ashamed of dating a contractor, or you're hiding something." Veronica's heart hammered. "I'm not ashamed. Xavier, you're..." She struggled for words. "You're the best thing in my life right now. The most real thing. Then why do I feel like I only know half of you?" She wanted to tell him, wanted to explain that she was trying to find herself outside her identity as a billionaire, that she needed to know someone could love her for who she was, not what she had, that every relationship she'd ever had been poisoned by her wealth. But the words stuck in her throat. "I just need more time," she said finally. Xavier studied her, and for the first time, she saw doubt in his eyes. "Time for what, Ronnie?" She didn't have an answer. The breaking point came at a construction site. Xavier had invited her to see a restoration project he was proud of, a historic church in Bronzeville. She'd agreed, needing to prove her commitment. What she didn't know was that Sterling Tech had just purchased the surrounding block for development, and her company's signs were everywhere. When she arrived, Xavier was talking with his crew, 5 men of various ages and backgrounds, who clearly respected him. They greeted her warmly, teasing Xavier about his girlfriend finally showing up. Then Xavier's phone rang. His sister Keisha. "Yeah, I'm at the church site. What's up?" His expression darkened. "What do you mean Sterling Tech bought the block? Who's Sterling Tech?" Veronica's blood turned to ice. She watched Xavier listen, saw his face change as Keisha explained. The tech billionaire, the aggressive acquisition, the plans to possibly demolish historic buildings for a new campus. "And get this," Xavier said loudly enough for Veronica to hear. "The CEO is some 32-year-old woman, Veronica Sterling. Keisha says she's ruthless, doesn't care about community impact, just profit margins." The words hit like physical blows. Xavier hung up, frustrated. "Sorry, my sister just told me the block around this church got bought by some tech billionaire. They might try to tear down historic buildings, including this church I've spent 6 months restoring." Veronica felt sick. She'd approved that acquisition without thinking about individual buildings. It was just another strategic move on a spreadsheet. Maybe they'll preserve the historic structures," she offered weakly. "Rich people don't care about preservation. They care about maximizing value." Xavier's voice was bitter. "This is why I hate that corporate world. People like this Veronica Sterling probably never even visited the neighborhood. Just looked at profit potential and wrote a check." He had no idea he was describing the woman standing in front of him. "I should go," Veronica said, her voice barely audible. "Already? You just got here. I'm not feeling well. I'm sorry." She drove away, her hands shaking, and made a call she'd been dreading. "Bethany, halt the Bronzeville development. All of it." "What?" "Veronica, we already closed." "I don't care. Halt it. Preserve every historic structure. Find another location. This is going to cost us millions and raise serious questions about your judgment. Do it." But the damage was done. She couldn't undo her reputation, couldn't erase who she was, and she couldn't keep lying to Xavier. Veronica decided to come clean. She couldn't live the lie anymore. She invited Xavier to her real home, the penthouse in the Gold Coast, not the modest apartment. She'd tell him everything and hope that what they'd built was strong enough to survive. But before she could arrange the conversation, fate intervened. Sterling Tech's annual gala was unavoidable, the biggest charity event in Chicago's tech scene, with media coverage and major donors. Veronica had to appear. It was her company, her event, her responsibility. She went as herself. Veronica Sterling in a custom Valentino gown, hair and makeup professionally done, flanked by security. Xavier, meanwhile, had been convinced by Darius to attend a police charity event at the same hotel. Different ballroom, different world, but the same building. "I need to get you out of your Ronnie funk," Darius had said. "You've been moping for 3 days. Come hang out, meet some people who aren't construction workers." Xavier agreed reluctantly. The collision happened in the hotel lobby between events. Veronica was walking with her assistant and security, discussing tomorrow's presentation to investors, when she heard a familiar voice. "Ronnie?" She turned and saw Xavier standing 30 feet away, staring at her like he was seeing a ghost. He took in the designer gown, the security detail, the way people deferred to her. Then his eyes landed on a promotional poster near the entrance. Sterling Tech Gala, featuring CEO Veronica Sterling. The photo on the poster was unmistakably the woman he knew as Ronnie. Veronica watched his expression shift from confusion to recognition to betrayal. "Xavier," but he was already walking toward her, Darius following with concern. "You're Veronica Sterling?" It wasn't a question. His voice was flat, emotionless. "The tech billionaire, the one trying to tear down the church I'm restoring. I stopped that development. I halted everything." "When? Before or after you heard me complain about it?" His eyes were hard now, all the warmth she'd fallen in love with frozen over. "How long, Ronnie? Or should I call you Veronica? How long were you pretending to be someone else?" People were staring. Her security moved closer, but Veronica waved them off. "Can we talk privately, please?" "Why? So you can lie some more? Was any of it real? Or was I just some experiment?" Billionaire slumming it with a working-class black guy for entertainment? The words cut deep, because Veronica knew how it looked. It wasn't like that. I needed to know if someone could love me for who I am, not what I have. So you lied. About everything. Your name, your life, your job. You made me think you were someone you're not. Xavier's voice cracked. I told you about my dad, my family, my dreams. I was completely honest with you, and you played me. I was going to tell you. When? After we slept together? After I introduced you to my mother? After you'd gotten whatever psychological experiment you needed from the poor contractor who saved your life? Darius put a hand on Xavier's shoulder. Man, let's go. But Xavier wasn't done. Did you laugh about it? About the guy who thought he had a chance with someone like you? I fell in love with you, Veronica said desperately, not caring who heard. That's real. Everything we felt, that was real. No, what I felt was real. What you felt was a lie you told yourself. He stepped back. Stay away from me. Stay away from my church. Stay away from my neighborhood. Go back to your penthouse and your billions and find someone from your own world to play games with. He walked away, and Veronica stood in her designer gown, surrounded by security, feeling more alone than she'd ever felt in her life. Bethany appeared at her elbow. Miss Sterling, the gala starts in 10 minutes. Cancel it. We can't cancel. Then run it without me. Veronica fled to her penthouse, kicked off her heels, and cried for the first time since her grandmother died. She'd found real love and destroyed it with lies. For 2 weeks, Veronica tried to function. She ran board meetings, approved acquisitions, made decisions affecting thousands of employees. But her heart wasn't in it. Bethany finally confronted her. What happened? You've been a ghost since the gala. The board is worried. I'm worried. I fell in love with someone, lied to him about who I was, and he found out in the worst possible way. The contractor? Xavier Monroe? At Veronica's shocked expression, Bethany smiled sadly. I've been your assistant for 8 years. I know when you're happy, and you've been happier these past 2 months than in all the time I've known you. I assumed there was a man. He hates me now, and he's right to. Does he know why you lied? I tried to explain. He didn't want to hear it. Bethany sat down across from her. Veronica, you're brilliant at business, but you're terrible at relationships. You approached this like a corporate strategy. Control the variables, manage the outcome. But love doesn't work that way. I just wanted someone to see me. Not my money, not my success, just me. I understand. But you can't build something real on a foundation of lies. If he couldn't handle your wealth, better to know early. If he could have, you robbed both of you of that chance by lying. Xavier was equally miserable. He'd thrown himself into work, putting in 16-hour days on the church restoration. His crew worried. His mother called repeatedly. Keisha showed up at the job site unannounced. You look like hell, she said bluntly. Keisha was petite but fierce, with natural hair and her father's no-nonsense attitude. I'm fine. You're not. Darius told me about the billionaire. Want to talk about it? Xavier set down his hammer. She lied to me, Keish, about everything. Her name, her life, who she was. Made me think she was just a normal woman between jobs. Was she a different person? Personality-wise? What do you mean? Did she treat you differently? Act fake? Or was she the same woman, just hiding her bank account? Xavier thought about Ronnie, Veronica, laughing at Navy Pier, sharing cotton candy, the way she'd listened to his stories, asked about his work, kissed him like he was the only man in the world. She was real, he admitted quietly. The person I fell for was real, just incomplete. So she lied about her circumstances, not her character. Keisha sat beside him on a stack of lumber. I'm not defending what she did. It was wrong. But think about what it's like to be that rich and that famous. Everyone wants something from you. Everyone sees dollar signs instead of a person. Maybe she was just desperate to be seen. So I'm supposed to just forgive. I'm saying maybe she's not the villain you're making her out to be. Maybe she's just a lonely woman who made a stupid mistake trying to find something real. Keisha stood. And maybe you're using your hurt as an excuse not to face the fact that you fell in love with someone from a different world. And that scares you. The word stung, Because they were true. Xavier had grown up working class, had watched his father work himself to death, had dropped out of college to support his family. Dating a billionaire challenged everything he believed about himself, his worth, his place in the world. What if the real problem wasn't that Veronica had lied? What if it was that Xavier didn't believe he deserved someone like her, regardless of her money? "Damn it, Quiche," he muttered. His sister smiled. "You're welcome. Now go talk to her before she marries some boring tech bro who doesn't make her laugh." Xavier stared at the church he'd spent months restoring, thinking about restoration in his own life. Maybe it was time to rebuild. Xavier showed up at Sterling Tech headquarters 3 days later. The building was glass and steel, intimidating in its modern elegance. Security stopped him at the front desk. "I need to see Veronica Sterling. Do you have an appointment?" "No, but tell her Xavier Monroe is here. She'll see me." The security guard looked skeptical but made a call. 5 minutes later, Bethany appeared. "Mr. Monroe, follow me." She led him to a private elevator that went directly to the top floor, Veronica's executive suite. The doors opened to a space that was elegant but warmer than he'd expected. Art on the walls, plants in the corners, photos of what looked like her grandmother. Bethany knocked on a door. "Ms. Sterling, Xavier Monroe is here." Veronica's voice muffled. "What?" The door opened, and there she was. Blonde hair pulled back, minimal makeup, wearing slacks and a simple blouse. She looked tired, vulnerable, and shocked to see him. "Xavier, can we talk?" She nodded, dismissing Bethany, and gestured to a seating area by the windows. Chicago stretched below them, and Xavier felt the weight of her world. How different it was from his. They sat in silence for a moment. "Why did you halt the Bronzeville development?" Xavier asked finally. "Because you were right. I'd never visited the neighborhood, never thought about the individual buildings or the community impact. I just saw numbers on a spreadsheet." She met his eyes. "After you told me about the church, I realized I'd become exactly what you said. Someone who prioritizes profit over people. I didn't want to be that person anymore. You killed a multi-million-dollar project because I complained about it. I killed it because it was the right thing to do, because you reminded me why I got into tech in the first place. To build things that matter, not just to get richer." Xavier leaned back. "Why did you lie to me, Veronica?" She took a breath. "Because every relationship I've ever had has been poisoned by my money. Men who wanted access, connections, or just the prestige of dating a billionaire. I've never known if someone loved me or loved what I could give them." Her voice cracked. "When you pulled me out of that river, you had no idea who I was. You just saved me because it was the right thing to do. And when we started dating, you treated me like a person. Not a bank account, not a CEO, just Ronnie, a woman you wanted to spend time with. I'd never had that before. So you lied. So I lied. And I know that was wrong. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I was selfish and scared and stupid. But Xavier, everything we felt, that was real. The way I felt about you, the way you made me laugh, the way I fell in love with your kindness and your honesty, and the way you see the world, that was real. Was it? Or was it just the fantasy version of you? It was the truest version of me. The version I've been trying to hide under business suits and board meetings for 10 years. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I fell in love with you. Really, truly, completely. And losing you has been the worst consequence of my lie." Xavier was quiet for a long time, watching the city below. "I fell in love with you too," he said finally. "With Ronnie, Veronica, whoever you are. And yeah, I'm angry that you lied. But Keisha said something that stuck with me. She asked if the person I fell for was fake or just incomplete. And I think you're the same person. You just showed me the version of yourself you wish you could be all the time." He turned to face her. "So here's my question. If we started over, knowing everything, could it work? A billionaire CEO and a contractor? Because our worlds are really, really different." Veronica wiped her eyes. "I don't know, but I'd like to try, if you'll let me." Xavier held out his hand. "Hi, I'm Xavier Monroe. I build things for a living. I have a wonderful family, and I'm terrified of heights, but will never admit it. Nice to meet you." A smile broke through her tears. She took his hand. "Veronica Sterling, I run a tech company. I'm terrible at work-life balance. And I apparently make really bad decisions when it comes to relationships. Nice to meet you too. Want to get coffee sometime? And this time, be honest about who picks up the check? She laughed. Really laughed. I'd love that. Rebuilding trust was harder than either expected. Veronica suggested therapy. Couples counseling with Dr. Yolanda Mitchell, a black woman in her 50s who specialized in cross-cultural and cross-class relationships. This isn't just about the lie, Dr. Mitchell said in their first session. It's about two people from radically different worlds trying to build something together. That comes with challenges, even without the foundation of dishonesty. She was right. Xavier struggled with Veronica's wealth. She'd invite him to dinner, and he'd insist on paying, even though his budget couldn't touch the restaurants she was used to. She'd offer to help with his business expenses, and he'd refuse, pride preventing him from accepting. It's not charity, Veronica said after one particularly tense conversation. It's a partner helping a partner. But we're not equal partners. You have billions. I have a decent business. That imbalance affects everything. Does it? Or are you letting it affect everything because you're uncomfortable? The question hung between them. Meanwhile, Veronica faced her own challenges. Taking Xavier to business events meant enduring whispers and judgment. Some people were supportive. Many were not. At a tech industry dinner, a venture capitalist named Richard Lawson cornered her. Veronica, is it true you're dating a contractor? Isn't that a bit beneath your station? Xavier is one of the most genuine, hard-working men I've ever met. If you think someone's worth is determined by their bank account, that says more about you than him. But the comments wore on her, not because she agreed, but because she hated that Xavier had to endure them. Xavier's world had its own judgments. His mother, Diane Monroe, a warm woman in her 60s who'd worked as a nurse for 40 years, invited them to Sunday dinner. Xavier was nervous. She's going to love you, he assured Veronica. Diane was welcoming but cautious. Over pot roast, she asked careful questions. So, Veronica, Xavier says you run a tech company? Yes, ma'am. Sterling Tech Industries. Diane's eyes widened slightly. She recognized the name. That's quite impressive. And you and Xavier met when? He saved my life. I fell in the river, and he jumped in without thinking. That's my boy, always the hero. Diane smiled, but there was something assessing in her gaze. I hope you know how special he is. I do. I really do. After dinner, Diane pulled Xavier aside. She's lovely, baby. But are you sure about this? Billionaire women don't usually end up with construction workers. I don't want to see you hurt. Mom, I know the risks, but I love her, and she loves me. We're figuring it out. Just be careful. Money changes people, sometimes in ways they don't expect. The turning point came at Xavier's church restoration reveal. He'd spent 8 months on the project, and the grand reopening was a community celebration. Veronica attended as his guest, dressed down in jeans and a sweater, trying to blend in. The church was beautiful, restored to historic glory while incorporating modern safety features. The community praised Xavier's work, and Veronica watched him with pride. During speeches, the pastor thanked Xavier and his crew. Then he added, and special thanks to an anonymous donor who provided funding to restore the stained glass windows we thought we'd lost forever. Xavier turned to Veronica, realization dawning. You? Anonymous means anonymous, she whispered. You donated. I wanted to support something you cared about. Not to buy your affection, but because this matters. This church, this community, they're part of you. Xavier took her hand in front of everyone. Thank you. Later, watching the community celebrate, Xavier realized something profound. Veronica's wealth wasn't the problem. His insecurity about it was. She wasn't trying to buy him. She was trying to love him in the language she knew. Supporting his dreams, investing in his passions. Maybe different worlds could merge after all. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. 1 year after Xavier pulled Veronica from the Chicago River, they stood at the same spot on the Riverwalk, their hands intertwined. The journey hadn't been easy. They'd fought about money, about public perception, about the fundamental differences in their worlds. They'd gone to therapy, had difficult conversations, made compromises, but they'd also built something beautiful. Veronica had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Sterling Tech, appointing a co-CEO to share responsibilities. She'd launched a foundation focused on historic preservation and community development, with Xavier as a consultant. Xavier had expanded Monroe Construction, hiring a larger crew and taking on bigger projects, but he'd kept his integrity, focusing on restoration and community work rather than chasing maximum profit. Their worlds had merged in unexpected ways. "I have something to ask you," Xavier said, turning to face her. Veronica's heart jumped. "Okay." He knelt down on the riverwalk, pulling out a small box. "Veronica Sterling, a year ago I pulled you out of this river thinking I was just doing the right thing. I had no idea I was saving my future. You've challenged me, frustrated me, taught me what it means to love someone from a completely different world. And I've realized that our differences don't divide us. They complete us. You've shown me that success isn't something to resent, but something to build together. I've shown you that wealth isn't what makes life meaningful. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Veronica's face. Yes, absolutely yes. The ring was simple, a diamond, but modest by her standards. It was perfect. "I wanted something I paid for myself," Xavier explained. "Something that represents us building a life together, not you bankrolling everything. It's perfect. You're perfect." They kissed there on the riverwalk while tourists took photos and a street musician played violin, and Veronica felt complete for the first time in her life. The wedding 6 months later was a blend of both worlds. They held it at the restored church in Bronzeville. Xavier's project, Veronica's donation. The guest list included tech billionaires and construction workers, investors and community organizers, her world and his, mixed together. Diane walked Xavier down the aisle, beaming with pride. Keisha was maid of honor, having become Veronica's friend through shared meals and honest conversations. Bethany gave Veronica away, since her grandmother was gone and Bethany had become family over the years. The ceremony was officiated by the church's pastor, who spoke about bridges, how God sometimes brings together people from different shores to build something neither could create alone. "Veronica and Xavier come from different worlds," he said. "Different races, different economic backgrounds, different life experiences. Society tells us these differences should divide us, but they don't. Love sees past surface differences to the soul underneath, and these two souls were meant to find each other." At the reception, Xavier's construction crew mixed with Sterling Tech executives. Diane danced with venture capitalists. Keisha argued good-naturedly with investors about healthcare policy. During their first dance, Veronica whispered, "I'm glad I fell in that river." Xavier laughed. "I'm glad I was there to catch you. You've been catching me ever since, and I always will." 2 years later, Veronica gave birth to twin daughters, Diane and Grace, named after Xavier's mother and Veronica's grandmother. The girls were beautiful, with cafe au lait skin, blonde curls, and their father's smile. Monroe Construction became one of Chicago's most respected restoration firms. Sterling Tech continued to innovate while focusing on community impact. But their greatest achievement was the life they built together. Proof that love doesn't see color, class, or bank accounts. It sees hearts. And two hearts that were brave enough to build a bridge between different worlds created something more beautiful than either world alone. On the anniversary of their meeting, they always returned to the Riverwalk. Same spot, same river. "Thank you for saving me," Veronica would say. "Thank you for being worth saving," Xavier would reply. And they'd stand there, two people from impossible circumstances who'd found each other anyway, proving that the best love stories don't follow the rules. They write their own.